Shonen, one of the most commercially successful demographics for anime and manga. I'm sure shonen fans have reminded you of that fact before. It is arguably the most mainstream demographic out there, and a huge chunk of popular shows can be considered shonen. So, for the three of you who don't know what shonen is, it is a group of anime and manga geared towards a young, generally 12 to 18-year-old male audience. Shonen often finds itself on the chopping block. Fans of other genres and demographics frequently dunk on shonen shows for a multitude of reasons. This hate is stronger towards newer shows, mostly because the older ones, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, and titles of that ilk, are more than just shows, they are institutions. They shaped an entire generation, and as a result, people have a soft spot for them. Newer shows don't have that advantage. Now, shonen is a vast demographic, so much so, you can't really form any general opinions about it. Shows like My Hero Academia obviously fall under the shonen banner, but so does Attack on Titan and Spy Family and Komi Can't Communicate, etc. etc. So, for ease of understanding and ease of video making, let's talk about the more stereotypically shonen shows. Like and subscribe, do it. Shonen shows do have their fair share of problems. And keep in mind, I am talking about the stereotypical shonen titles at this point. If a formula works, let's call it a genre for now, the genre will gladly reuse it over and over. Clichés such as the inner demon, the training arc, the pre-powered up flashback, these are all storytelling elements which worked once and the genre as a whole never looked back. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, said Albert Einstein. Or Vas from Far Cry 3 for those of you who haven't had a shower in 3 weeks. And that statement is accurate. Commercially successful shows start certain trends, other shows do the exact same thing, and they end up being successful as well. Of course, not every show is guilty of this, but a lot of them are. And while this is an issue with this genre, people really overestimate the severity of the same. What is that? Yuji houses a dangerous curse inside him? In a family-friendly way? He's literally Naruto. Jujutsukaisen features monsters which are created by negative emotions. It's literally Bleach. Let's ignore every new thing that Jujutsukaisen has to offer and mark it down as a Bleach clone, because that makes a lot of sense. Generally speaking, shonen titles tend to be long, and as a result, they might start off being derivative of other shows, but they eventually branch out into their own thing, to varying levels of success. Also, a lot of these tropes are justified. If a character is going to develop his abilities, it makes sense for him to train, thus the famous training arc. If a character is a part of a society or an organization of similar people, it makes sense for them to compete with each other for a multitude of reasons, thus the famous tournament arc. Now yes, the inner demon trope has a 1 in a million chance of happening, but somehow every protagonist seems to fall victim to it. That is a bit hard to stomach, but generally speaking, shonen tropes or clichés are justified. The way these tropes are handled depends on the shows themselves. Some do it better than others. Basically, shonen being somewhat repetitive is a good and a bad thing. It's not all bad. Another major complaint people have is the relatively simple style of storytelling employed by the genre and its overly optimistic worldview. Again, there is some truth to this. Shonen can feel naive, it can come off as immature, largely because of its target audience being kids. Shonen titles are simple, although not in a slice-of-life kind of way. Bocchi the Rock wouldn't oversimplify plot elements and suffer from logical inconsistencies because the plot isn't important. Shonen, on the other hand, tries to tell an eventful story. It simplifies select elements instead of the whole thing. But is that a bad thing? In fact, does seinen allow for a more free style of storytelling simply because more aspects of the story can be explored? No and no. Let me explain. There's a fact that you need to come to terms with. Complexity is not the same thing as quality. A show isn't good simply because it's complex. The terms complex and dog shit aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, exploring more aspects might limit a show's ability to tell a story in a cohesive manner. Newly baptized seinen fans often have a hard time grasping this. They are blown away by the fact that a show can present a more complex style of storytelling, and they get on the highest horse possible. You know those people. My Hero Academia is for kids. Berserk is what men read. Oh, what's that? Jujutsukaisen? It's mid. My taste is vastly superior because I read Vinland Saga. I don't watch anime or read manga like you peasants. I consume media. You know, those types. Also, you need to be flogged in public if you use the phrase consume media. Anyway, these people and others often criticize shonen for being too simple, and some of that criticism is understandable. A show might overestimate itself and pose way too many compelling questions only to never answer them properly because those concepts end up being too complicated. The show just goes, the main character will deal with it, trust us, he will, which is disappointing. However, the general simplicity isn't a bad thing. Shonen thrives on that shut your mind and enjoy mentality, and the simplicity helps with that. Being simple is not a bad thing if done right. Shonen titles rely on certain simplified tropes. The poorly explained power-up, aka plot armor, the unnecessarily sympathetic villain, which does appear to be the more complex way of handling an antagonist, but it's not. Le bad guy had bad things happen to him, so he's bad. That's the general formula. And these tropes work, again, if done right. Although there are certain tropes which are doomed from the start in my opinion. The power of friendship will always be corny to me. That one can't be saved. But overall, being selectively simple is neither a bad thing nor a good one. It's up to the individual show. There's another source of shonen hate. Fans of other shonen shows, or to be more specific, fans of older shonen shows hating on the new ones. As I previously mentioned, people grew up with certain shonen titles. Naturally, they'll overlook several flaws. They'll ignore the boring arcs or the poor writing or the underwhelming visual quality caused by the weekly schedules. Oh, and by the way,
schedule.
Unfortunately, these people are not as forgiving when it comes to newer titles. The shut up and enjoy mindset is often put to the side and a series is looked at in a critical manner. And to a degree, I get it. There are shows which do suck and you can't help but notice, but as a whole, and this applies to everyone, not just the OG shonen fans, people are too critical these days. And the worst part is, most of these people don't have a critical mindset. They simply parrot other people. And when they are unable to come up with a cogent critique, they pull out the powerful, all-encompassing and deeply meaningful adjective, mid. Mid is another way of saying I don't like this show but I lack the verbal ability required to elaborate. Everybody is a critic these days, and shonen is the genre which suffers the most because of this increased scrutiny. A lot of people don't factor in enjoyment these days. And sure, some people might enjoy critiquing a show, but those people are few and far in between. Gone are the days when people would watch shows without typing 15 tweet-long threads about it. I am being pretentious, I know, but it's in my name, so... Anyway, shonen is fun. Even I'm not too terribly fond of the battle shonen genre, but as a concept and as a way of telling a story, shonen is just as good as the rest. That's about it. Did you like this video? If you did, check out this other bit of content on screen. Make sure to like and subscribe, and until next time.